The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
The FujiCast.
Well, hello, the FujiCast daily for the first time. Kev is, I can't believe this. You say you're under a dog blanket.
It stinks. Absolutely stinks.
Well, it depends, because if it's Breezy's dog blanket, you'll say it smells of petals. If it's that other monster, you're going to say it smells horrible.
It's the other monster. Yeah, absolutely stinks. Do you know what I bought him?
What?
I bought him some dog mints for his breath.
Oh, MINTS?
Yeah.
No way. Really? Oh, okay. Did he take the hint?
I don't think so. I gave him one and then he farted.
Your poor dog. Anyway, look, we never thought we'd be doing. We talked about FujiCast Daily a couple of times, and you know we've always said, look, if anybody's mentioned FujiCast Daily, we've always said
No, please, no.
And here we are. But the world has changed, hasn't it? We have the time as we're in some kind of self-isolation, not because we're ill, but because we're following the government suggestions. We've socially distanced, Kev. But
I quite like it.
Do you think you could do the show under a dog blanket every week?
Yeah, it's good. I haven't seen anybody for about 3 days. It's brilliant.
Just under the dog blanket. So welcome to this FujiCast Daily. I mean, and these are new times. We're going to use this opportunity to support each other as a community. Keep sending your questions and your thoughts to click at fujicast.co.uk. But also what you're doing to carry yourself through this, what learning you're doing, what projects you've thought about, what books you're reading, even what stuff. Actually, this will be very pertinent. What stuff you're watching. Please, God, let the internet not break down. Otherwise, we're seriously in trouble, aren't we?
Oh, that would be really bad, because I'm playing online chess with about 75 different people right now, and that would be terrible. I'd lose all those games.
Is that the only thing you care about? All right, first up, elephants in the room.
Don't be rude.
No, it's not about you. Why does everything have to be about you? Shush, you'll have your turn. Business. So what do you feel like then, Kev? I mean, I've got it. Do you know those little signs you get at the airport? What are they called? The sort of split signs. Split flap, that's what they were called. The departure announcement signs at the airport. Those ones? That's been what my email box has felt like over the last couple of days. You know, where it goes from everything's on time to all flights cancelled, one after one after one after one.
Yeah.
What have you felt? What have you felt like mentally while all this is going on?
Yeah, it's tough, really tough. Pretty much everything is postponed or cancelled. As you know, I don't really work in August because I'm normally sunning myself in sunny Spain, but clearly that won't happen this year. So, or May, June, July, pretty much. I think I've got 2 left.
Really?
Yeah.
What have the customers been like? What have they been saying to you?
Well, in fairness, most of them, and of course, you know, many of them don't understand the impact it's going to have on us. You know, as our income is wedding photography, and we don't have a day job. You know, this is our day job. But for them, of course, they can't see past the 2 years of planning and the emotional turmoil. And I totally understand that. Absolutely, totally understand it. I would be the same way. So it's you have to be compassionate, absolutely, and in most cases, people have been already speaking to their venues and getting new dates for next year. Generally, in some cases later in the year, and so far I've been able to kind of say, yep, I'll be able to do that next year or whenever it is. Yeah. But you know, it's tough for everybody. I'm sitting here under my dog blanket with my third beer of the day.
You haven't really opened the beer this early.
Yeah, but this is late. You should have seen me yesterday.
It's going to be like one extended long holiday for you. Do you know, if you're thinking, why is Neil laughing? I've taken to laughing as this kind of like defence mechanism. It's the only bloody thing I've got left.
Yeah, it's you know what? It's what do they say in the war? You know, you'll get through it. And
during the war,
we need more help now, don't we? During the war.
Well, you know, a lot of people compare it to 1918. I don't want to get all political with this, but of course we just ventured out of a 4 or 5 year long war, only for the young men coming home to be hit by Spanish flu, which wiped an awful lot of the young working community out. So it's not at all like that, is it?
Yeah,
really?
no, not at all like that. And the irony, of course, what we're all doing now is we're all kind of learning about the history of these things, and so many people will never have heard of the Spanish flu.
I'd forgotten. We had learned about it at school. I'd completely forgotten about it.
But it's interesting that it was called the Spanish flu because the British government specifically didn't want to. They called it Spanish because Spain were neutral during the war. Yeah. So they didn't want anybody to kind of pick sides or blame anybody. And it actually, if by all accounts, started in America, in Kansas, and then kind of dissipated all over the place. And you can't partition blame. And you get some politicians, I think we all know who we're on about, calling it by a particular country.
Oh, that was wrong.
It just doesn't help anybody. No. It doesn't help anybody at all, and it really pisses me off. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and I've got 3 potatoes and 75 bottles of wine left, and a couple of bars of soap. That's fine. The kids are happy. Albie was delighted when school was out. He spent all his time on the internet talking to his friends to say. Yeah, I'm like, Albie, do you talk to them this much in school? No.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I tell you what, though, thank God for that communication, because over the next 2-3 months, however long this thing pans out for, we are practicing the social distancing thing. We will go for walks and we will see the friends, but it's going to be weird, isn't it? Going to be strung out by 2 meters between each person. It's odd, but. Things I'd never thought I'd say to when we thought that the weddings. I still have one booked for Saturday, by the way. It's not. It's actually not officially cancelled yet. Well, you think it will, though, don't you?
I think they'll cancel it. Well, I was speaking to a friend of the show. I'm not going to mention any names. Just yesterday, and he shot a wedding last Saturday that was meant in London. That was meant to be 70 people. In the end, and a full day. In the end, there were 7 people, immediate family, and it was 2 hours long, and it was in a restaurant in London, a very well respected restaurant. Yeah. And at the end of the wedding, they sacked all of the staff. They said, "That's it. No. Go home." Yeah,
that was it. Oh,
that was it.
Well, I was talking to a couple the other day about planning for some weddings that are up in April. That won't be happening. But I remember having a chat with them and saying, well, what do we do about this? Things you never thought you'd say in your life. What do we do about this social distancing then during the big group shot? What a weird conversation to have. What about when we do the family shots next to each other? Is it appropriate to do that one anymore? Should we not do that one anymore?
Well, in my mind, this is a perfect excuse to get rid of all of that stuff. Totally. Never do them ever again.
Never. Yeah. Do you remember that period in 2020? We better not be doing group shots anymore. Let's go absolutely reportage. Everybody's story is different, although if one more person, Kev, say they'll be okay because they're mortgage free, I think I shall scream at them.
I'm just going to move in with them.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that. There we go, 1 lodger. No, actually 4 lodgers. Plus your lot. That's 8 lodges you've got moving in.
Well, yeah, but we only need to take one of the dogs.
No, we take both dogs. Don't be horrible.
Oh, and those hairy things in the garden, what are those called? Hamsters. No, they're not hamsters.
Have you guinea pigs?
Guinea pigs, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We had some guinea pigs, but about that were the boys' first pets. We will talk about stuff to do with photography, by the way. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we rehomed them. Because they weren't looking after their own pets, so we rehomed them somewhere where the kids really did want them. And we said something terrible that day. We said, "Well, look, they're going away for a holiday. they've never returned." Occasionally, one of them will say, "Those guinea pigs we had. When are they coming back for their holiday?" Anyway, but some people's behaviour that's upset me. Did you see, by the way, the Scott Morrison, the Australian PM? Did you hear what he had to say about it?
Yeah.
With the people hoarding. I completely agree with him.
Now, on bulk purchasing of supplies, stop hoarding.
Yes.
I can't be more blunt about it. Stop it.
Stop it.
It's un-Australian, he said.
Yeah, he did say it's un-Australian. And he's absolutely right.
Yes. Yeah. Humans, I tell you.
Have you heard of the nudge principle, by the way?
I have. I've been reading about that today. Yeah. Quite right. Yeah.
It's essentially putting fruit at eye level. That's like a nudge. It makes when you go into a shop, you might pull off the fruit. Or the other famous nudge principle is the picture of flies in men's urinals.
Yeah.
People, men aim at the fly, and then they no longer get the floor, which are.
Well, I wouldn't do that now, being a vegan, but it's the it's the same principle of the psychology of words, where in my booking form, at least for my clients, it says most people choose to book by filling in the form and sending me a deposit. However, if you want to come and meet me first, so just using most people and however, that's using the nudge principle. So you're basically saying to them, this is what most people do. If you want to be different to everybody else, that's fine. But, you would be different.
Well, they were talking about the nudge principle as being something we should all do if we go shopping. If we get a basket of normal amount of shopping, take a picture of it and put it on social media. Social media wasn't only responsible, but was a lot responsible for making people panic buy, because it was just picture after picture after picture of empty shelves. And if you see picture after picture of empty shelves, then what are you going to do? A lot of people go out and they'll buy stuff. If you put if we all started posting pictures of sensible grocery baskets, then, some people are going to say, oh, well, look at you virtuous old thing. But actually, virtue signalling and that sort of nudge behaviour might actually stop people doing it. Or am I...
No, I mean, you're right. I've been avoiding social media, as you know,
I know,
for about 3 weeks now, and it's been great. But I mean, of course, that makes sense. And you're still going to get complete dickheads who are going to, do what they want to do. I'm going
to be working extra time with this bleeper here. Sam said to me,
I'm the one under the dog blanket.
Sam said to me last night, so can I ask you a strange question? I thought, oh, this sounds interesting. Kids have gone to bed. And I said, yeah. And she said, could we put the Christmas lights up outside the front of the house again? I said, why would you want to do that? She'd read this story about people in one town, I think it's in America somewhere, that have started putting Christmas tree lights out again, just so that they could have some sort of, so people would make people smile as they went past. And I thought it was such a lovely idea. So I might go up into the loft tomorrow and see if we can spread I don't know if it might be also that people will go past the house and think, what's wrong with you?
They will crash because they'll turn their head to look at your door and then crash into the car in front.
No, they won't. Anyway, so we're not quite sure how long these are going to be, are we? We haven't really put a limit on them. But there'll be shorter editions, won't they? Because you can't be under that dog blanket long.
No, exactly. So I would say that we need to get on with it, really, frankly. Let's do it.
Okay, I get it. But we did need to talk about why we're doing it first. So this is all about community. Please remember, get your questions and stuff in, because they really will be the lifeblood of the show now. Steve Johnson, this is quite a long piece, but then we'll get to it. You guys have talked a lot about discussing the topic of mental health recently, and I commend you for that. It's a subject that can never be talked about too much. And actually, on the mental health thing, we were going to have one episode. I think I've had some really interesting conversations with people late, and I might put little bits up on the daily instead and do it that way instead. Mm-hmm. Anyway, says, during the winter in Shetland, we get about 4 hours of sunlight. And like many of us in the UK, we've been badly hit with bad weather, which limits the chance of me to get out and about. Now with the COVID-19 outbreak, and socialisation has become more difficult, and I found myself becoming more insular, which isn't, for me, great. So he's talking about the mental health thing. I tried to complete a photo a day challenge, but I find myself mentally drained and uninspired, and I've already missed days by the second week, which has really bugged me. Yesterday I picked up a little Ricoh GR3 as a sort of no excuse everyday camera. Once again, I think the Shetland weather struck him, so he decided to take some photos using the FujiFilm X-T2. He said, I found myself loving the photos, regained some of that self-pride in my work, and regained a little bit more enthusiasm towards things. So what sort of things have people done photographically in the past to regain enthusiasm and self-esteem? I don't think I've ever had to go through that process before. Have you ever had to sort of regain some enthusiasm and self-esteem with any particular projects, Kev?
Yeah, I think so. Occasionally, I think not specifically projects, but just having the thought process of thinking, today I want to create something. Yeah. And sometimes you just get up and you think, I can't be bothered. I can't reach the camera, or it's not charged, or I need to download the pictures first, or whatever. Yeah. So that hits, and it it hits more often. It will hit more often or not now because of the situation we're in. But Patrick Larocque, bless him, over in Canada, his son is. I think his son was one of the first ones to. He hasn't caught it, but he was in a class with somebody who did. So they've been in isolation,
right?
And it's amazing. So he's, of course, Patrick being the god of everything amazing. He's managed to basically not move from his living room sofa and create a blog post every day of amazing pictures. And I look around my house now, and what can I see? Empty beer cans, smelly dogs, a couple of towels. It's like how can I do that? How can I? So the challenge is there, but of course it's available for all of us.
Yeah, well, Steve actually said I'd love to see some indoor COVID-19 isolation mini projects. And that's a good idea, isn't it?
Very good idea.
Yeah. Well, you got you and your beer cans, as you just said before. So thank you, Steve. One more from Matthew. My name is Matthew Hendricks from Cape Town, South Africa. Really loving the podcast. Great work. Currently listen to it every day doing my commute. It inspires me a lot. I'm currently on episode 5. Cool. You've got a long way to go, Matthew. However, I'm trying to shoot Fujifilm on a pretty low budget. I've picked out a used X-T1 for cheap. I own the 23mm and 50mm f2 lenses. I mainly shoot street by the seaside. I was wondering whether you'd recommend any other great budget lenses or recommend I upgrade the body ASAP. Well, let's take the body first. Do you need to go X-T2 if you're enjoying the X-T1?
No. If you're getting what you want from any camera, you do not need to upgrade. Simple as that.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, let's keep your X-T1. You did you use an X-T1?
Yeah. I was one of the first ones to have it. Yeah. Really? I had it on pre-production, and that was I don't know, what was that? 6 years ago.
Did you have your name etched into it or something?
I do. Yes. So back in those days, when you were involved in the pre-production stuff, we still had to pay for it, but they would give us the serial number of my X-T1 is Mullins 01.
That's cool. It really is. Anyway, he owns the 23 and 50mm f2 lenses. Wondering if you recommend any other great budget lenses. So anything that he should use. I mean, street work, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably look at something like, it depends what budget is defined as, isn't it? But you've got things like the 18mm f2, that's relatively cheap.
We've talked about that one a lot, haven't we? And that's a good lens. Didn't I tell you who was using that a lot in Brighton? Facundo Santana was using it.
Facundo, I think that's the only lens he's got, bless him.
Is it? Sort of glued to his camera. He took some amazing stuff that day in Brighton.
Yeah, he's very good, very good. And also maybe the 27 2.7 pancake lens. 27mm pancake lens. And
is that
that's pretty good.
First generation?
Yeah, there's only been one of those. Yeah,
there's only one. Right. Okay. My other question is how, when you started out in photography, you made the time to go shoot. With a full-time job, I find it really difficult. I shoot places close by my work, but it's getting a bit dull. Any ideas on getting a new perspective on the same place, perhaps? Best Matthew. Not everybody is in lockdown, so I think Matthew's able to get out there still.
If you're in exactly the same place, the same office, the same street, etc., every day, then you've got to look at things like, who was it? We had an email last week, didn't we? From who was doing vertical, shooting everything vertically instead of horizontally.
Oh, that was the Gump.
The Gump, that was it. The Gump, yeah, good old Gump. So you could shoot everything vertically. You could shoot from low down, high down. You could pick a theme, a color, particular type of person, particular. Concentrate on light, shadow, shapes, geometry, whatever. It's the hardest thing about street photography is just going out and thinking, right, today I'm going to go and do street photography. You can't really do that. You have to give yourself something to look for. Give yourself a theme of some kind, and you'll get better at it, and you'll enjoy it more.
Well, thank you for your questions. Right, so over the next however long this is going to be, sometimes these editions might be slightly longer. They're usually going to be about 15-20 minutes. They won't all be about the virus. We just thought we had to talk about the elephant in the room before we started. So send us your questions, your thoughts, what you're doing. Any other thoughts, Kev, on what people could send in, apart from money?
Money and a clean dog blanket. That'd be great.
You can't be under that dog blanket. I want a photo of you under the dog blanket.
I've sent it to you.
Have you?
Yeah.
Have I got it?
Yeah,
It
on
just
your
says it.
messenger.
All right. Well, I'll go look that up. I'll post that. All right. So we'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Well, it won't be the same. It's going to be different times, isn't it, Kev? As well. I don't know why I'm even saying same time. And the longer editions, by the way, we've got 2 in the can, but this might just take over the longer ones. We might do a slightly longer one on Mondays or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, we'll hope it's not going to be too long. I don't want you to be under that dog blanket for too long. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.